Good evening. I am Cheryl Nunes, and welcome to the wonderful Wednesday presentation of our garden crew. This is a new format for our wonderful Wednesday program. Hopefully this presentation will be able to be added to our website for all to see. Life is full of surprises. About 2 years ago, I joined the UU crew as a volunteer, getting to know people and finding my way. Shortly after becoming part of the garden crew, a wonderful Wednesday program began. I thought it might be interesting, and there was a lot of great subjects and regular get-togethers. Well, our get-togethers have changed a bit, but we are still looking forward to opportunities to learn and feel connected. Our wonderful Wednesday program for tonight is a new and exciting presentation. The history, transformation, and activities of our beautiful garden. Once upon a time, yes, even our 3-acre garden has a story to tell. So let's begin our presentation with the opening from Tony Fisher.
Greetings, everyone. I want to welcome you to Wonderful Wednesdays and this presentation by our garden crew about our memorial garden. I sit in my office most Tuesdays looking out my window and seeing a lot of busy bees flittering around our incredible garden, working and weeding, communicating, enjoying fellowship. It is one of the great things about this congregation, one of the wonderful things about having an office that looks out in that direction. The garden crew do a wonderful job, they have a great time, and they provide such a meaningful service for this congregation and for the wider community. What they have created over the years and over the past few months especially is really wonderful. So I want to welcome you into this time for them to share their joys, their accomplishments at creating for us what is really a masterpiece. Welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Tony. We appreciate all you do. So sit back, relax, get comfortable, and let's go on a journey in time. Our first presenter is John Betcha, a familiar face.
Hello, my name is John Betcher, and I have been a part of the Naples Unitarian Universalist Garden and Grounds Committee for many years. I joined UU shortly after retiring 15 years ago, after being raised as a strict Roman Catholic family and unchurched as a gay man since my teens. It was wonderful to join a welcoming congregation such as ours, a denomination free of dogma, positive in its social outlook, and most importantly for the garden crew, the important principle of respect for the independent web of all existence, of which we are a part. That seventh principle relates to this wonderful Wednesday program in that the UU Garden and Grounds Committee has long sought to cultivate our 3 acres of garden area, which originally, believe it or not, looked like what you see on the screen. My first experience with the garden happened 15 years ago when I went to the UU office on another matter, and as I neared the office door, I saw a straw hat magically levitating above an overgrown red hibiscus. I thought, what is going on? Apparently, excuse me, I said hello in a loud voice, and suddenly Harleen Richardson, who we see here with her husband, Bruce, an early and master gardener and chairman of the garden committee for many years, Harleen Richardson appeared and said she was part of the UU Garden and Grounds group. She explained that her husband, Bruce, also pictured here, was working with others in the back garden of the building while she worked in the front. She said she and Bruce were part of several volunteers who come every Tuesday morning, weather permitting, to trim, weed, plant, or do whatever is necessary to create a lovely garden for the congregation. Here I thought was something I could do. Bruce and Harleen and I were, as they say, not spring chickens in age, but we had other volunteers, but we and the other volunteers still had and still have substantive energy to devote to this good work. And it's healthy work, outdoor exercise. So for the last 15 years, I've done my best with a core of other willing volunteers to join in this effort to prove, and it has proved a wonderful way to meet other UUs and to assist in creating the great garden we have today. Initially, the congregation held services in a geodesic dome, placed for the most part for what is now the front parking lot area, without air conditioning and with multiple leaks that continued to leak during heavy rains, no matter how often repaired. The congregation realized we needed a better, more comfortable quarters, the building we meet in today. Even during the dome days, however, there was a garden group working to place attractive plants around the domes. But moving to our present facility came with a true gardening challenge. 3 acres, as we see here, of undeveloped land. Now, other members of the present Garden and Grounds crew will treat us to the results of their good work. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next presenter is Bill Haubrick, my original garden buddy.
I'm Bill Haubrick, and welcome to the Entrance Gardens. First impressions mean a lot, and when I joined the garden crew, I thought, I'll work in the front gardens, because people, as they enter the sanctuary, will notice those gardens first. I wanted to have an essence of tranquility, peace, and elegance. As you approach the sanctuary to your left, you'll see a lovely area John Graydon has contributed to. As you can see, color adds to eye appeal. Also in the front are bromeliads, where we see one in full bloom. There is a new garden area that is reclaimed from a bed of weeds. As you can tell, it doesn't look like a weed patch anymore. We now have sun-loving and shade-loving plants, which blend together to create a peaceful setting. Adjacent is a stone wall. The stones or rocks were found above and below the wall by just digging up the ground and planting plants. We found all these rocks to build the wall. The wall seems to add an attractive and novel approach visually. Now we move to another reclaimed area, which is also a patch of weeds. Rick Gazzaro, Rose Lemery, and I developed this garden and used bromeliads, poinsettias, and Rick's pineapple plants to create a beautiful, useful, and colorful setting. Next is John Graydon's amaryllis garden. Time, money, and work were combined to add to this garden. We discovered that fall and winter are the best times to view this garden for an explosion of color. Another reclaimed area is the mother-in-law tongue, bromeliad, poinsettias, and impatient garden extension. Rick, Mary Ellen, Rose, and I spent weeks clearing the land to create this garden, and we did a lot of transplanting from other gardens. You'll hear the word weeds come up quite a bit in our discussion today, but believe me, this particular garden needs to be weeded every week. A small orange tree and medallion were recently added as a memorial to Brent Moore. Jody Biscosno and her son Brentley planted the tree and Mary Borland conducted the ceremony and a brief service. Our last project to date is to the left of the sanctuary. This is a new Bromeliad garden. In 2018, we began to clear the area of debris and started trimming the trees. Bromeliads were added over time, and recently more colorful bromeliads were added. Orchids were planted into the trees to add color. Our visitor to this particular garden is surprised to see the grandeur one experiences when you look in any direction. I hope you've enjoyed today's tour, and I want to conclude with a quote from actress Audrey Hepburn. "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Our next presenter is Rose Lemery. She will show you some of the unique and interesting spots in the garden.
Hi, I'm Rose Lemery, and I've been on the garden crew for about 3.5 years now. There are several points of interest in the garden that I would like to show you. Beside the pavilion, we have a stunning piece of natural art donated by Kathy Rippon in memory of her husband, Len Sales. It is a unique limestone formation known as a scholar's stone. Scholar's stones are formed underwater. Their beauty comes from their hollows, made from years and years and years of wave and water erosion. These stones are found mostly in the Yangtze Delta, in the vast drainage area of Tai Lake. Tai Lake is one of the largest freshwater lakes in China. Scholar's stones are usually large and are prized as decorating material in traditional Chinese gardens. When you are next at UU, please take a moment to enjoy this stunning natural art. At the beginning of our garden walkway, opposite the memorial wall, you will find a rock with a dedication plaque. This plaque reads, "In memory of Nancy D. Webb, this walkway was given by the Webb family." After all my years of walking by this dedication and giving it my silent, tribute, I finally looked for Nancy on the memorial wall. Nancy Doubleday Webb died in 2000. I think she would be quite pleased to see how our garden grows. Here you will see one of the 2 exquisite wooden benches that were handmade, donated, and delivered to us by John Roberts. Now, if you don't know John, he is married to Ann Roberts, one of UU's exceptional pianists. You will find John's second bench in front of the memorial wall. Now, John proves to be a man of many talents. He also handmade, donated, and delivered to us a unique metal sculpture of an iguana. John's iguana sits perched high atop a rock to the left of our waterfall and looks right at home and made for that spot. Thank you, John. There are members of UU, and then there are friends of UU. Friends of UU is an actual designation. Fred Fenner was a friend, but never a member. Fred died about 6 years ago at the age of 93. He was a retired radiologist, never married, and a neighbor of Ann Fullerton. Fred would often ride to UU with Ann, and while Ann attended meetings, Fred would sit in the office and talk with whomever was there, or sometimes he would just sit out on our old patio. Roger Brown was president of the congregation at that time, and plans were in the works for our new addition. Fred liked Roger. On the way home from UU one day, Fred seemed especially pensive. When Ann asked what was going on, he said, "Do you think I could offer money for the addition?" "Well, sure." Ann says, "I thought he might give $20. Fred was old school and didn't even have a checking account. He asked Anne if they could stop by his bank the next time he rode with her to UU. They did, and he came out with a cashier's check that he would only give to the big guy, as he called Roger. That day, Fred Fenner, friend of UU, handed the president of our congregation a check for $40,000. Part of Fred's donation was used for the children's garden. He wanted children to put down their technological toys and commune with the beauty of nature. Although Fred never became a member of our congregation, he did say, "If ever I were to be anything, it would be a Unitarian." At this point, I want to give a mobile shout out to Jan Juergens, who was a member of our garden crew for many years. Jan, if you and Nick Provenzo are watching this right now from Albuquerque, mwah, we miss you. Bromeliads. That's too soon. Okay, we'll have to cut. Okay. Yeah. Bromeliads. One particular area of our memorial garden was overgrown with clumps and clumps and clumps of bromeliads, many as tall as my waist. One Tuesday morning, Jan suggested we clear them out. You know, give the space room to breathe. We started on the right, and began pulling out bromeliad after bromeliad. I heard Jan exclaim, "Look at this gorgeous rock we are uncovering." We kept moving to the left, pulling out bromeliad after bromeliad, and soon I exclaimed, "I feel something metal under here." We started pulling with reckless abandon, and there sat a beautiful chalice. Jan and I were overcome and yelled at the top of our lungs for all the rest of the garden crew to hurry, come see what we just found. We were like raiders of the lost ark, finding a lost UU artifact in the garden. Ann Fullerton tells me the chalice was there before she became a member in 1999. So the chalice has been in the garden for quite some time. It was made by an artist friend of Harlene Richardson and bolted to the rock. This particular area was UU's original small memorial garden. It is a mystery to our current garden crew as to how this beautiful chalice could have been left to disappear, only to be rediscovered years later. It will never disappear again. So I ask you, when you are finally able to, please come visit the garden. You will be happy you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Our next presenter is Jane Ellsworth, who of course needs no introduction. Let's watch some photos and then listen to Jane's presentation.
A stroll in our UU garden is always a very pleasurable and rewarding adventure. Another way to enjoy the garden is to stop every once in a while and really put your senses to work. Take the time to look up, turn around, and look up again. See if you can find some orchids tucked away in the bark or branches of a nearby tree. Look down and observe the plucky new growth sprouting from the base of some of the established plants. Move on and compare the different shapes and shades of all the green foliage around you. Stop again to look for some very strange seed pods and perhaps some highly unusual blossoms. Are there any plants you have never seen before? Carefully, very carefully, feel the smoothness of the frond of a giant bromeliad, then touch the delicate edge and its extremely sharp tip. Stop to study the use of chunks of dead tree trunks being used for plant containers and/or the creation of other architectural constructions. Look for the plants that seem to have their own built-in water storage containers. and notice and feel the rough texture of many of the trunks of the large shrubs and trees. Do you see any colors in this garden that are difficult to name or even describe? If you start your walk from the front of the building, stop to marvel at the very large tree playing host to orchids and other colorful plants living along its main limbs and branches. 4 of the trees out front have been given, with the garden crew's okay, in memory of members' loved ones. While still out front, and if you have the time, count the mangoes. Upon your discovery of the canoe at the back of the children's play area, take the time to determine its suitability as a vehicle for our youth's trip down the neighboring canal. In case you wonder what the garden crew does with all the dead palm fronds, the weeds, invasive plants, runaway vines, weeds, and more dead palm fronds, take a hike out back. Head a bit north and west of the Purple Martin Resort to find our compost pile extraordinaire. Stacked nearby, you'll find the heavy, cumbersome bags of mulch and pine needles needed for the garden's paths and walkways. If the shed alongside the pavilion is open, peer inside to see the one tool the crew cannot do without. Above all, visit the garden. It sparkles in the early morning dew. It beckons with noontime shade and light. And at the end of the day, it's a perfect setting for cocktails and good cheer. Social distancing enables us to enjoy its peace and tranquility.
Thank you, Jane. Our next presenter is Patsy Sachs, who is our Master Gardener.
Hi, I'm Patsy Sachs, and I work in the garden sometimes. As a master gardener, we have a home, and our home is at the Extension office. It's the Collier County University of Florida Extension, and it's on Immokalee Road in front of the fairgrounds. And we have beautiful demonstration gardens there, and you can come visit them anytime you'd like when the Extension office is open. It's the first entrance when you turn down the road going to the fairgrounds, and it's right there. I'm in charge of the butterfly garden, and I do have to go do upkeep every now and then. So I try to, and we do work on Tuesdays, so I have to try to do my time sometimes at one place and sometimes at another. Let's look at bromeliads. Our garden has a wonderful selection of them. Some do best in the sun, and some do best in shade. They're really beautiful and useful landscape plants. Many bromeliads have beautiful blooming stalks, while others bloom inside their cup. Some are very colorful and stay low to the ground, and others are large and green. Some have saw-blade edges, and others are smooth-leafed edges, and these are the ones the rabbits eat in my yard. I have to be careful. Usually I have to put a fence around them, and often it's after I found it being eaten that I bother to fence it. Hopefully some of them come back. Bromeliads are very good in our climate as they like the humidity here, and they really don't like a lot of water. The roots don't like standing in water, and many of them are epiphytes, which grow on trees or rocks. They absorb water through their leaves and in the center cup. The tillandsias that you see growing in the trees all over Florida are native bromeliads to our area. They are definitely epiphytes. They are easy to care for, all of them are, but they do require some attention. After the mother plant blooms, she usually starts dying. It's a slow process, but she'll produce pups, which will replace her. And so often after the mother plant dies and the pups are about a third the size she is, you need to cut them off and throw her away and plant the new pups in her place. So let's take a walk through our Bromeliad Boulevard, as Jan Jerkins called it.
Thank you, Patsy. Our next presenter is Maria McCormick, a familiar face.
Hello everyone, my name is Maria McCormick. To stave off boredom during isolation, I made a Japanese rocking fountain from scratch, which operates from solar power. The fountain can be found in the most southern area in the garden, the meditation area. Our new meditation water feature is made of bamboo, and it has a peculiar style and unique beauty. It is called Shishi Odoshi, translated as Deer Scarer. Shishi Odoshi is also referred to by the Japanese word suzu. This Japanese water feature has an abrupt, periodic clunk noise, which was intended to startle away animals, which pose a threat to agriculture. Shishi Odoshi has risen above its utilitarian role and has taken on a new purpose. It is now part of the visual and acoustic design of Oriental gardens. Many Zen gardens have added Shishi Odoshi as a meditative aid. It creates tranquil surrounding and soothing sound. Shishi Odoshi has become a classic water feature in recent years because of its cultural history and incomparable style. Had it not been for the pandemic, I probably would not have created this interesting Japanese water feature. We find that life's problems are sometimes opportunities in disguise.
Thank you, Maria. What a wonderful new meditation garden. We are now going to hear again from John Betcha with some additional history items of our garden.
There are two, there are two special features in the garden that I'd like to mention. They're certainly worth noting, and they are the fountain, the large new fountain, or large fountain, and the memorial wall. Interestingly, the large coral boulders that form the fountain were found when excavating for construction of the present congregational building. Some senior members of the congregation have told me that these boulders were randomly piled out and back, out of the way of construction, and only later was the idea conceived of converting the pile into a natural fountain with several separate small waterfalls as a focal point for the garden. Then ground was cleared in front of the fountain for a viewing and sitting area for ceremonies such as outdoor weddings, namings, anniversaries, birthdays, and the like could be held. Betty Shepard generously supplied the funds to construct the brick walkway to the fountain so that disabled persons and those using wheelchairs would have easy access. Also, there is a gazebo located in the garden for similar small ceremonies. By piping various natural openings between the boulders into small waterfalls were created. The resulting sound and action of the water creates a pleasant place for meditation. The water for the fountain is obtained from a nearby enclosed well, which not only feeds the fountain when it is turned on, but supplies the elaborate 6-area water sprinkling system that irrigates the entire 3-acre garden. Using groundwater for the fountain and timed sprinklers saves the congregation from adding to its city water bill. A second feature of special note in the garden is the memorial wall. Until about a year ago, when the wall was completed, name and date plaques had been affixed to a wall bordering the patio. The plaques were made of a high-quality green marbleized plastic with gold engraving. Unfortunately, over the years, since the plaques were exposed to direct sunlight and the weather, they faded badly, and in many cases could not be read or could not even be viewed or touched from the patio because plants had grown large enough for the border of ground in front of the wall to obscure the plaques. Obviously, we needed something more appropriate to honor our past members. The new memorial wall has replaced the old signage with marble plaques with gold names to the plaques for touching the names of the departed. A beautiful centered marble tablet provides an inspirational text for meditation. It reads, "Our memorial garden was created as a place of meditation and peace. These members are gone from our lives, but not from our memories. Their ashes nourish beauty, their spirits love." When visiting the garden, be sure to visit the coral fountain and this beautiful memorial wall. Thank you.
Thank you, John. What a wonderful presentation. Our last presenter is David Sleeper, always a wealth of information.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm David Sleeper, a new member of the garden crew. As you've already learned this evening, we've done a lot to improve and expand the gardens at UUCGN. I recently recorded some sound effects to accompany these photos. Let's begin. How much better when the whole land is a garden and the people have grown up in the bowers of a paradise. All my hurts, my garden spade can heal. Those who plant a garden plant happiness. Flowers are a proud assertion that a ray of beauty outvalues all the utilities of the world. The earth laughs in flowers. What is a weed? A weed is a plant whose virtues have never been discovered. Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. One of the most delightful thoughts about our garden is the anticipation it provides. We may think we are nurturing our garden, but of course, it is the garden that is really nurturing us. Adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. And finally, I really like this one. Thought is the blossom, language the bud, action the fruit behind it.
Thank you, David. That was a beautiful presentation. We hope that you have enjoyed our journey in time. Our beautiful garden paradise is set up for memorials, commitment celebrations, special events, and weddings. You too can have a garden experience that is close to Naples, yet a serene world away. Thank you for watching our Garden Paradise presentation. I would like to thank the garden crew for their time and effort in putting this presentation together. Each person's presentation has been a learning experience for us all. Thank you again.
Be my wife, and let us try before we die to make some sense of life. We're neither pure nor wise nor good. We'll do the best we know. We'll build our house and chop our wood and make our